This is a continuation of my opinion of how we got into the police mess that we did. It's lengthy and complicated and covers about a half of a century, but I hope that by the time I'm done, people will understand what happened to us. Right about the time that Nixon got elected, we were in the middle of the Vietnam War. The Vietnam War was very unpopular, and the citizenry pretty much saw through the rationalizations that industry wanted to prolong or to engage in the war. There's all kinds of theories behind it. Personally, I viewed it as a default of the French intelligence service control over the heroin or opium trade, and when the fall of Dien Bien Phu happened, there was a big void there, and we stepped in and took it over. And we took over the whole French operation, not just the government, but the funding of it and the heroin operation. Now, a lot of times, various illegal commodities have been used to fund black projects for various governments. The East India Company had a few smuggling deals. England, by and large, existed on the port countries on smuggling, and they instituted admiralty courts, which made sure that the crown got its cut and the enforcement wasn't too rigorous. The United States existed before the nation existed on smuggling, and smuggling became sort of a way of life. The smugglers got their wares from pirates who really weren't pirates. They were called privateers so long as they had a letter of marque and reprisal from a sovereign nation, a king or queen. So England issued letters of marque and reprisal, and the colonies did also. So for instance, Massachusetts would issue letters of marque and reprisal allowing Massachusetts ships, which were crown colony ships, to attack any non-English ship as long as England was at war with them, and they could haul the ship back to the Admiralty Court, and the Lord Vice Admiral would award part of the ship proceeds and the value of the ship to the captain that captured the ship, and another part to the crown. So it was lucrative business. And that's how a lot of wars were funded and things such as this. In the colonial times, the Admiralty Court was located in Boston, and the colonists brought their loot there to get it cut up with the crown. And up until the time that they moved the Admiralty Court to Nova Scotia, it was a pretty good deal. There were lots of letters of marque and reprisal issued out of Boston, and a lot of those ships were supposed to guard the Hudson's Bay area and the headwaters of the St. Lawrence River. Well, most of them ended up sailing up and down the Madagascar coast, getting Dutch shipping, and Spanish and Portuguese shipping over there, which was much more lucrative since they were hauling cargoes in the spice trade. Be that as it may, we got to the point in this country where a lot of revenues of this country was funded by what I called back then organized crime. In fact, when I was in half century ago, I wrote a thesis on the premise that this country was founded on organized crime, with the slave trade, rum trade, sugar trade, etc., and the tea trade, of course. So we get to the point where we get a constitutional government. We had a bunch of confederation of colonies prior to that. And with the Constitution, we put together a contract between the governmental entity and the citizenry. And it was pretty clear. There was division of powers. There was some power allocated to the states, some to the federal government. The theory was the federal government should be limited. Well, one of the limitations was in the enforcement of criminal laws. We had 50 or 13 states, then 48 states, etc. And each one had their sovereign right to define a criminal or a crime. So, for instance, many years ago I had a case in Mississippi. It was a drug case. And the statute there said that it was a marijuana case, that a narcotic drug was anything with the addiction-sustaining qualities of heroin, opium, etc. Marijuana didn't have that, and they conceded that. Or anything that was found to be the same as opiates, etc., under the